Welcome to another episode of Soul Flow Conversations. I am your host, Dedrick the Cookie Man, and beside me, my co-host is the phenomenal Mrs. Fields. I'm gonna have to get my sound effects together. I'm gonna get my sound
Yes.
effects together. Yeah. So tonight we're going to be talking about cultural diversity. We're going to be talking about spiritual versus religion. And like you know how we do. We may touch on some other things too. However, we're going to probably start it off with cultural diversity and everything. Matter of fact, let's start off with spirituality and religion. I think because and then we can go into cultural diversity right after that. But um, a lot of the times in the realm of religion and spirituality, people get the two kind of mixed in together and everything. Now, it's religion does have the addition of spirituality in it, but it's not the same. And sometimes you might have to go backwards to go forward when it comes to breaking down religion and whatnot, because as I got older, when it came to spirituality, my family, I grew up in a spiritually sound, spiritually grounded family, but we also had our religion that we fell into. So, for instance, I was raised in the apostolic Pentecostal holiness type of realm, and sometimes because there was a church down the street, and they were a Baptist church, and when I was young, I used to have a idea that somehow they weren't the right religion. They weren't the right religion because their name was different. Because it said Baptist and we were Pentecostal, or we were apostolic, we were holiness, that kind of thing. And then as I got older and attended other Baptist churches, and I'm like, well, they worship just like we do. There ain't really a difference. And then I started going down the rabbit hole and when I was in college, that's when I really started to do some digging. Now, keep in mind, when I was in college, the internet wasn't a big thing then. So for me, it was a whole lot of reading that I did to try to gain understanding. And then as the internet was introduced, I went down that rabbit hole even deeper because now the Freedom of Information Act was live and in effect. Um, so there was a lot of information that was being released that was freely being released, that had never been previously released in such a way. So I just started digging. I dug and I dug and I dug. And when I tell you the rabbit holes go deep in all different directions and stuff like that, and then you start to realize that traditionally what you've been taught isn't necessarily always the accurate thing, and whatnot. And as I started piecing together certain things, and for me, I had discernment. I knew what was real, what was false by comparing different notes of different things. And you can always kind of tell. Sometimes you can tell when people are just disagreeing to throw you off the track, or they're putting out false information just to throw you off of what you're actually trying to learn. And when it comes, and I've seen videos to where, for instance, I'll give you an example where a young man went to a church. They welcomed them in, and I think they had a thing to where they let guests speak or whatever the case is, or say hi or whatever it was. And he went in front of the church and he pointed at the white depiction of Jesus Christ. And he said, I don't want to be rude or anything like that, but I think y'all might want to take down that photo or that picture of the depiction of Jesus Christ. The Bible says that there should be no graven images of and whatnot, and you should not worship false idols, and that is a false idol. And a lot of the people in my family have that same picture, and that's not Jesus. He said, because it clearly says that he had woolly eyes, eyes of fire, bronze, skin of bronze, different things. That does not fit in that realm. And I think we as Black people, we need to stop following blindly and really do our research and to do our due diligence. And they kicked that young man out of the church. And see, for me, when it comes to one thing I was raised in with my grandfather, currently with my uncle, and different stuff like that, because they were bishops. And the thing is that they always broke down things in layman's terms. They gave you the scripture, but they broke it down in real world terms, so that people who are new to the church, people who were in the church, they would feel welcome because things were being explained to them. It wasn't do as I say, thee, thou, though, shout, and all this other stuff. We didn't talk like that. We gave you the scripture, but we also explained it in layman's terms, in real world terms. And I think I appreciated that because it wasn't all this, fire and brimstone stuff. It was always explained. It was always an education. So that's one thing I appreciated about my grandfather, my uncle, and whatnot, that they broke it down. And when it comes to spirituality, I'm more spiritual now than I am religious, because to me, religion was a form of control. It was established as a form of control. So I really didn't like that element as I read the history of religions and stuff like that. So I'm going to pause my synapses right now and allow the phenomenal to speak, and that way she can give you her perspective on spirituality versus religion.
I agree with everything that you said. You know, unfortunately, I'm not saying, and when I say unfortunately, I don't mean it in a bad way. Because our elders didn't know any better, and we were pretty much indoctrinated and told what we needed to believe. Okay, if you're a Black person, you have to be a Christian. Well, if you're a Black person in America, at least, I can't speak for other nations. You're going to be a Christian and you're going to believe in Jesus Christ. You're going to be a Democrat, but that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. So we get indoctrinated a lot on what we are supposed to believe. And I'll tell you a story. I was heavy into church. I mean, heavy. I mean, usher board. I was on the choir. I went and visited the sick and shut in. I was at Bible study on Wednesdays. I mean, when I tell you I did it all for church. And so much so that I was going to be a minister. My pastor, I never forget, in Newburgh, New York, I was a member of a church, and him and the first lady, they're like, you need to be a minister. You need to go to school and learn the word so that you can minister to other people, right? And guess what? I actually did it. I went to school. I took theology. And then it just dawned on me that something just didn't feel right, because at that point I was reading it for myself. I wasn't listening to the pastor tell me what to think or what to believe. I was actually reading it myself. So then when I say, okay, I read this, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. So then I go and research, and I'm like, oh yeah, some don't add up here. The math ain't mathing, as we like to say. And by the way, the portrait, the white Jesus, that his name is Cersei Borgio, and he's actually the son of a pope. So again, the white Jesus that are on the back of the fans in the church and in the glass stained windows, and that's not Jesus. Now, let me be very clear. I believe Jesus existed. I believe the Bible in a historical manner. But in fairness, I've also read the entire Bible. And when I say the entire Bible, I don't mean the King James Version. I mean the Ethiopian Bible. I have the Dead Sea Scrolls. I have the Sumerian tablets. I have the Dead Sea Scroll. Did I say Dead Sea Scrolls already? Yeah, Dead Sea Scrolls, Ethiopian Bible, Sumerian tablets. I have the slave Bible. Like Billy's gonna take his card off of Amazon soon because I know I'm getting on his nerves because I'm always ordering books because it's an interest for me. And religion is truly, truly it's a mechanism to keep us enslaved between that and politics. And I think if you remember back in the days, I know we're about the same. No, I think you're a little older than me, but not much, not much. What did our elders always tell us is two things you don't discuss with family: politics and religion. There was a reason for that. Also, I don't like a religion that I can't question. If I can't ask questions, if I can say, hey, wait a minute, pastor such and such, or bishop, or a deacon, whatever, if I can't ask questions, I have a problem with that. Excuse me.
Mhm.
So, essentially years ago, I just started deep diving. And like you said, the rabbit holes can go very, very deep. And I figured that spirituality was a better fit for me rather than religion. And like I said, I believe that religion keeps us enslaved in a system. And I also, I'll say this and then turn it back over. Um, if you truly read the Bible with an open mind, not with a heart of faith, I know that sounds crazy for people who are of faith, but if you were able to step away from your faith for just a moment and read it like a Stephen King novel or whoever your favorite author is, and actually read it as the book that it is, you would see that what the church preaches and what the Bible, or let's say Jesus actually preached, are two completely separate things. Jesus did exist. I will not discount that. History can show it, history can prove that. But he didn't exist in the way that Christians have put him forth. Oh Lord, here come Milk Dud. Huh? Hold on, y'all. Go ahead and say your thing. So Billy talking to me. Hold on.
Okay, so she touched on a few things that I think people need to realize. When and please understand that a lot of the times when we talk about blackness or African American and stuff like that, we tend to start with slavery, and that is an inaccurate place to start, because when Christianity was introduced to Africans, they were introduced in such a way, I was trying to find the pictures that I found that I took when I went to the Bible Museum here in Washington D.C. And in one of those particular areas, there was the Caucasian Bible, then there was the slave Bible, and it was vastly different. I want to be accurate when I say this, but there was several. When I say several, the slave Bible wasn't even a fraction of what the rest of the Bible was, and they did that so that the slaves did not get hope, so that the slaves did not become empowered, so that the slaves they worshipped the Caucasian man. And the thing is because when we talk about the fact that religion was used as a source of control, it was. You have to understand that there are two things that you can do to control a people. You can weaken their family structure, and you can affect their spirituality. And when you manipulate them spiritually, it affects the family structure as well. Now, the family structure, there's a lot of elements to that side of it. But when you talk about the spiritual side of things, and you talk about God, one thing Africans, one thing Black folks have always been strong on was spirituality. They've always been strong on that. Now, when you've been indoctrinated, that's when religion is introduced. But spirituality has always been, Christianity was not founded in Africa. Africans had a different belief system that encompassed God in everything that they did. And they did believe in a higher power, but they also believed that God was in everything that we did, all of the plants around us, all of these things. It encompassed all that stuff. So when you introduce religion, you put it in boxes. You got the Catholics, you got, the several different peers of Baptists. You got all of these, like I said, the way I was raised in was Pentecostal, apostolic, holiness. All of that stuff was the same, but they just had labels, and then you got these other, and we're not talking about church names. We're just talking about religion in general. You got your Buddhist, you got your, Hindu, you got all this other stuff. So one of the issues that I had at one point was the fact that you had the traditionalists say, if you don't believe what we believe, you're wrong. But my question was that none of them could answer that. We would get upset when I asked this question. I'm just like, well, if Chinese believe in Buddhism or whatever, and that's the God that they serve, that's the only God that they know, who are we in Western civilization to tell them that they're wrong for worshiping the God that they serve? They're serving a God. They just call him Buddha or whatever. So they're serving a God, but we over here in the Western is sitting there saying, "Hey, you're wrong. You're supposed to serve. You're supposed to be a Christian." Well,
And
I'm confused. So
that's
how are
what
you going
made
to tell them?
That's what made me walk away from becoming a minister, because I was like, who am I to tell somebody else what they have to believe? If I want to believe it, that's fine, But who am I to tell Dedrick or Maurice or Billy that because I believe in Jesus or Christianity, that's what you have to believe in? That's not right. And at the end of the day, too, who's to say all of us ain't wrong? Who's to say all of us ain't right?
Right.
When it comes to religion, here's my biggest thing. I will never try to sway somebody from being religious. If it makes you a good person, if it gives you structure, if it gives you discipline, if you love it with your heart and soul, I'm all for you, baby. I will root for you to the end of times, But at the same time, don't discount what somebody else believes, because I get it a lot. Especially coming from when I trace my ancestry, I come from a long line of ministers and pastors. So if they were still alive, oh my God, I'd probably be burned at the stake at this point.
Oh Lord.
But because they're not willing to listen. So again, it's like that was my pivotal point, from the story I told earlier, where I was going to school to become a minister. And after a while, I started reading and researching, and that's what I would do. I would research about, okay, you're teaching me about Christianity. I have a Quran. I have I can't pronounce it, but it's from China. I got one from India. I can't pronounce them, so don't judge me. It's like the that. But I got it. And it's pretty much the same aspect in all the books, just different wordings and different names. So guess what? Maybe we're all serving a universal God. We're just calling them, hey, ducks, be quiet. Maybe it's just a universal thing where we're all truly serving the same God. We just call them different things. And again, who am I to tell somebody in China that they can't believe in Buddha? You were born there. And then that's another thing, like, if you or I were born in China, we would probably be Buddhists, right? If we were born in Europe, we'd be Catholic. If we were in the Middle East, we might be Muslim. So a lot of times it also just depends on dynamics, not even beliefs. Because again, it's indoctrinated in us. It's taught to us. Like, for example, my children, I don't talk to my children about religion. If they ask me a question, I answer it honestly to the best of my ability. But I don't say anything that's going to sway them one way or the other. I said, listen to me. Research everything, question everything, and whatever you choose to believe is what I want you to believe. And I'll back you 1,000% as long as your heart is in it. I'll never forget one day, William came home from Yaya and Papa's house. And this was a few years ago. So he was a little bit younger. He had to be 9 or 10. And he says, Mom, I want to get saved. And I said, okay. I said, well, tell me why. And he says, well, because Jesus is good, God is good, and, it's the right thing to do, and my soul. I said, okay, those are all great answers. I said, but tell me why you want to do it. And he looked at me, and I could tell he couldn't answer the question, but I gave him a couple minutes. And so then I asked him, I said, well, is it because you think that it will please your Yaya and your Papa and your Auntie to do so? And he was kind of like, yeah, it would make them happy. And I said, listen to me, baby. You don't have to believe what Mommy believes, but you also don't have to believe what they believe, right? I want you to do your own research, and I want you to come to the conclusion on what you want to believe. Never believe something to appease or make somebody else happy. I land my plane on that.
Well, I can agree with you to a particular extent, because my thing is that we as parents are supposed to be a guide. It's cool to have the kids think independently. That's a good thing. But we want to make sure, because like when you say as long as your heart is in it, well, what if he starts studying satanic rituals and stuff like that? His heart is in it. Is that going to be acceptable to you? So you got to be really careful, because there's a fine line when you say as long as your heart is in it, whatever, I'll back whatever. You got to be real careful and specific, because
well, no, I did put that disclaimer in there. I should have mentioned that. I'm like, as long as it's not harming nobody, you know what I mean? So I did put that disclaimer in it.
Yeah, because
I was encouraging, like, look at the different religions. I said, today you might want to be a Christian, and 5 years from now you might want to be Islam. You might want to be a Buddhist. You might not want to be anything, And I take something like that seriously. Like, I don't excuse me for saying it the way I am about to say, I don't like half-ass Christian people. If you're going to do it, do it.
Yeah.
If you're going to be in it, be all in it. So, and that was the point that I was trying to make. So, yeah, I should have included that there was a disclaimer.
Yeah. Because my thing was, my son, he was conflicted because he was leaning towards atheism, and I was like, you. And I explained some things to him and stuff. Like, we had some conversation about it, because it disturbed me when because we would go to church, and then all of a sudden he didn't want to go, and so we had a real conversation, a few conversations about it, because one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to push so hard because one thing is always clear, is that when as a parent, when you push so hard, a lot of the times the kids rebel and willfully go into the opposite direction, because it's the thing that was hammered into them, and then they get a disdain for it. They get a sour taste in their mouth for it. And that's one thing I did not want to do. I wanted to provide him with education and understanding and comprehension as to why I believe the way I believe, why we were raised the way we were raised, and how it made sense. And the thing is that even now, still, he's a good young man. But the thing is that being good, in my opinion, is not enough. You need to be led by something. You need to be spiritually guided by something. And that's not how that's where that higher power comes in. And like for me, when I'm now saying that I'm more spiritual than I am religious, because we attend a Baptist church now. That Baptist church worships just like my church back home, which is an apostolic church. You know what I'm saying? The dynamics are pretty much the same, except we're in a mega church. I don't know if you want to call our church a mega church, but anyway, but the way we worship are practically the same. The only difference is the label. So we have to be very, very conscious of the labels that we slap on everything. We have to make sure we're conscious about where our levels of comprehension and understanding is, because I had to break myself out of the traditional way of thinking because it was so rigid. Common sense sometimes didn't register, because a lot of the times people, when they're talking about the Bible and they refer to the Bible, they think that everything in it is literal. There are parables in the Bible that is meant to teach us lessons. And a lot of the time, some people take those parables as literal happenings or literal things. So we have to make sure we do our due diligence and be educated on what we're talking about. And then a lot of them, they like to use scripture as weapons. First of all, you don't get to pick and choose stuff to use for your convenience. For instance, and I'll give you a quick example. When I was in college, and this is when I was really, really confronted with um, homosexuality and all that stuff like that. And I remember we was on a bus trip going to or coming from Disney World, and they asked me a question. I stayed out of the conversation. I heard everything they were saying. I stayed out of it because my unpopular opinion, I'm sure, would have caused some ripples on that bus, because I went to a fashion-led school. It was a fashion design, fashion merchandising school, and then it at that time they added a few more majors, a few more I guess majors you can call it. They added computer graphics, commercial art, and interior design to that particular school. So being that the baseline of that school was fashion driven, you already knew there were homosexuals, lesbians, whatever. You already knew that that was a part of the culture. But for me, I didn't judge people based off of that. I judged people because they were good people. I judged people because they were nice people. I judged people because they were genuine spirits. They were good people. So for me, that had nothing to do with me. Just don't try to feed it and put it on my plate and force feed that to me to have me accept it, because it's not going to be accepted to me. We're not going to agree. So when they brought the question over to me, I said, well, find anywhere in the Bible where this was acceptable. Find where, because they clearly says it's an abomination for a man to sleep with man or do that which is unseemly with So I gave him certain Bible quotes because I called my grandfather. He gave me the scripture, so I was accurate about what they were. As I made sure I made the phone calls and say, hey, what's the scriptures that da 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 da, and he spit them out to me, gave them to me, and I gave them to them. Of course, they had all these pushbacks, all these rules and stuff. Well, Jesus loves us, God loves us all, and we are all his children. And da, 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 da. I said, okay. And then he says, come as you are. Yeah. Da, da, da. I said, yes. But it didn't ever say stay as you are. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of things that they would do, they would nitpick what they wanted to take out of it and use for their own advantage and stuff like that. And I'm like, listen, you got to take it as it is. Like, you don't get to say, oh, well, he meant this. Well, it clearly says this. You don't get to say to me, because I believe this one way, you get to say, well, you're wrong. Well, how am I wrong? And I'm showing you scripture. You're going off your feeling. You're going off what you feel. I'm going off what is written.
Well, I mean, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, so you were saying pretty much that, like, for one, people cherry pick the Bible and they use the verses that they want to use to fit the narrative that they want, for their congregation for that Sunday or that sermon. And
Right.
then there are some people that take the Bible sometimes too literally, but then there are some, but that we also have to understand that some of them are parables. So
Right.
you had mentioned something in the back chat when we were coming up with the the topics for this evening,
Right.
and it was flat Earth versus a sphere,
Yeah.
right? So if I go according to the Bible, and I can look this up on the first page, I can go get it right now. And on the very first page, it will say that God separated the waters from below and above, and he created a firmament. And then there are a couple more. I'm not very good at remembering, like, chapter this, and that, but I know I read it. But I can always go get my Bible. That's no problem. And that the earth is still and that it does not move. So in that aspect, okay, which part do we take seriously? And this is a serious question. I'm not being like a know-it-all or nothing. It's things that I ponder when I read the things that I do. So if you're a true Christian, but yet you believe that the globe is a sphere, although on page 1 in Genesis, it states that he put a firmament above the earth and separated the waters. And then the waters dried, and then he created life and humanity. And then he rested on the seventh day. So which part, so are we not to take that literally, or do we take that literally?
Well, when it comes to that, I go off of the science of what it all is. Because if in fact that it was a flat situation, that would mean that pretty much everybody would be in daytime at the same time.
No.
Yeah, because if the sun is shining, if you're talking about a flat surface, if the sun is shining on one side of this flat surface,
go ahead, I'm gonna draw you a picture.
If the sun is shining on this flat surface, how then can we say that it's a flat surface, or we have night and day if the sun isn't going around a sphere? Even when you look at the moon, we all have studied that the moon has phases. The moon has phases. When the moon goes into these phases, the shadow that is cast is a round shadow. It's not a flat shadow. It's a round shadow.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's just a couple of examples. Now, again, when you're talking about the vacuum of space, okay, let's just say you got talking about the vacuum of space. If a water droplet falls from the sky, it's the droplets in a sphere. It's not in the little raindrop that we draw. It's in a sphere. So if gravity is as such is where the water droplet has to be in a sphere falling to the earth, how then can it be flat? Being in the big vast vacuum of space, how then can it be flat? And then on top of that, okay, where's the edge? So you telling me in all of humanity, nobody's ever gotten to the edge. Where's the edge?
I don't want to do this rabbit hole.
Like where's the edge? Is it y'all saying there's an ice wall? There's the ice wall. Okay, well, where's this wall?
We don't know.
I want to see it.
But we can't.
Where?
That's the problem. We can't.
Where?
If you were to go, okay. Mm-hmm. So now, and I'm not saying that this is true. Let me be very clear. This is all conspiracy.
No, we just having a conversation. Yeah.
Conversation for anybody, because I don't want nobody to think that I'm saying that this is absolute truth. For all that, why can't we go to Antarctica? We cannot go. We cannot go. Not only can we not go to Antarctica, but I mean, we can go, but we're not going to get past that wall. And every single nation, and I mean every single nation, even the ones that hate each other, China, Russia, Iran, the Rothschilds, all these different people have stations in Antarctica. So that's my first question. If there's nothing to hide, why can't we fly over the wall and see what's on the other side? If it's nothing, it's nothing. Okay, cool. My second question, though, from my initial statement
Mhm.
is I can't tell you how many times every morning when I walk Monica to school, I can see the moon to the right and I can see the sun to the left. How does that happen on a globe? Now, I drew a little stupid picture. It's stupid. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's stupid. It's just really bland. So it's not intricate. So can you kind of see it?
Yeah.
So what they theoretically, they say that if it were a flat earth and you had all the continents in the middle, you still could have a sun and a moon. And they rotate in this type of position instead of going around the earth. And now me and you have had several, conversations, just for an example, about the moon landing. Me and you both believe that that was nonsense.
Yeah.
So it just when we look at stuff like that and say that was some nonsense, that looked like some sticks in aluminum foil. If you're gonna lie about that, what else can you lie about? So again, I'm not convinced one way or the other. It could be the shape of a unicorn for all I know. I don't know. I haven't been to space,
Yeah.
But if you can lie about something about going to the moon, and creating this CGI, pictures to tell us that this is what the Earth looks like, I find that a little bit odd. And then one more thing, and then I'll stop talking. If you look it up, and you can look it up and verify it, Universal Studios, their commercials, when they had started making the black and white movies, their commercials had a planet of a globe. Now, mind you, Universal Studios was concocted in like the 1920s, way before the supposed moon landing. Then all of a sudden, when we supposedly landed on the moon, the Earth looked like the Universal Studios logo from 1920. So I need somebody to make that make a little bit of sense, because it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, here's the thing: when it comes to the globe situation, it's already been proven that the way they depicted the continents and all that stuff was inaccurate, because Africa is pretty much the largest continent, and whatnot, and they made it smaller. They just the proportions were out of whack. So a lot of the stuff, because again, when you think about the power of the Caucasian and their art of manipulation, it's not hard to determine that a lot of what's been told to the the world public has been inaccurate or a flat out lie. You and I have talked about the moon landing and stuff like that, because when I went over here to the museum over here, the Air and Space Museum in DC, and I look at the lunar module that they said they landed on the moon, and I'm sitting here looking at this thing that looks like paper mache, and we're talking about the vacuum of space, right? So
hold on real quick. They have it in what museum?
The Art and Space Museum
in DC.
The Air and Space Museum, yes.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah, they have various yeah, they have various replicas in different air and space museums.
Okay.
Scattered out, because that's not the only museum for air and space. So but when I look at this thing, and I'm looking now, in my mind, I'm a logical thinker. I'm a critical thinker. So I'm looking for the boosters. I'm looking for where the rover would have been on this little freaking whatever this was. And I'm just like, okay, that makes no sense. And then I think about the videos. Okay, well, who filmed the freaking videos if this dude was the first on the set foot on the moon? Who was the person who filmed the stuff? And then when they took off, okay, y'all left
Y'all just left the boy behind.
Right.
Right.
Like there's certain things that just don't make sense to me. And then on top of that, when you're talking about the moon, there are effects that the sun has on the moon when it comes to heat and all that stuff like that. And I go right back and I look at this module. There's no way that this thing could protect these astronauts from all, like there's so much. Then you have coming from Earth, you have to go through the Van Allen belt. It's already been said that the Van Allen belt is extremely difficult to get through. So explain to me how they got through it. Now, the space shuttle, in fairness, if they designed it correctly, it could possibly get through it. Okay, with all the shielding and all that stuff like that. Sure. Okay, fine. But you trying to tell me that, and I'm not going to say any year it was, but you trying to tell me that back then they were able to reach the moon, and we haven't gone back since.
Right.
Because they say that they lost,
destroyed it.
Data. Yeah, they destroyed. They lost data, or they can't do it. Hold on. We're in an age of development, of technological development. So you're trying to tell me we can't get back up there? You trying to tell me that? That makes no sense. A lot of this stuff makes no sense. Then when you question Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong, you question these guys, they get upset.
Said we didn't go.
And they say we didn't, literally say it. This is not AI. This is not AI. This is literal video evidence that they said it on late night shows. They said it
because the little girl, because the little girl was like, "What was the scariest part?" And he said, "The scariest part. Well, it probably would have been scary, but the problem is we never went." And I was like, "Oh,
yeah, right.
Okay, well, so thanks, Bud."
Jessica, if you made such a huge accomplishment, would it matter how many people asked you if you really went? Mm-hmm. That was something that you're proud that you accomplished, wouldn't it be?
Heck yeah.
So for me, those type of things, those discrepancies in mindset and what's been said, and then I saw the sound stage of the moon surfaces and stuff like that. They had a track going around the sound stage and all this other stuff. They got the cords attached to them so they can bounce around, and even they got the green screen underwater so that the weightlessness can be more convinced. Like that's so much that is there. So what is going to make me feel like you went? Now, on the flip side of things, you got people who will dispute you down. I was there when you was there where?
On the phone?
They podcast up and da. Are you listening to what you're saying? Mm-hmm. You were alive when the broadcast went out. You do not know how those things work. Yes, you was in the military, but do you think the military is going to tell you everything? No,
right.
They're not going to tell you everything.
Well, and that's my thing, and that's why I brought up like the moon landing and our conversations. Yeah, is because when you think about something, they made such a huge deal about. I mean, I think people kept their kids home from school that day just so they could watch it on television.
For real, yeah.
So if you make that much. If you can lie about that, then it just makes me question everything that you've ever told me. You know, so like I kind of say, like I said earlier, it could be shaped like a Krabby Patty. It could be shaped like a unicorn. I don't know. I'm not one or the other because I have not been in a rocket. I have not been in outer space, and I cannot confirm nor deny if it's a sphere. But what I do know is that let me be careful. Our agencies,
right?
They tend to lie about things. So it just it makes me like, okay, well, what else can y'all lie about if y'all lied about something this huge? That's huge.
Right.
So, and that's why I question everything. But then again, and I've had this conversation with like Christians where they're saying, "Oh well, the Earth is a globe," and I'm like, "But your Bible says differently. If you really look at it, even it'll say it's a circle. It won't say it's a sphere." And I've read that thing backwards and forwards. It does not ever say that it is a globe. It says it's a sphere. And King James, who was the one who authorized the writing of the King James Version Bible, he isn't the best person that I trust either, because he also wrote a book of demonology, which I also own, and he liked to lay with men. This is a fact. So there's so much into it to where it's just like, sometimes I drive myself insane. Even Billy be like, "You down here rabbit hole," and I be like, "Yeah, man, this one is deep. I don't even know what to think. I gotta hurry up and go to bed. Cause I thought this, but now I done read this. Now I gotta read this to back up this or discredit this, one of the two, because now I wanna know. Because it's like everything's, in my opinion, is a lie."
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing when it comes to all this stuff that that's the reason why I don't trust I'll trust the government when a spaghetti strainer is filled with water. You understand? Like for me, I don't. When it comes to certain things, like I'll give the Trump administration one thing. They said that they feel like the public can handle the truth about UFOs and unexplained things and stuff like that. Thank you. Finally, somebody in the government got some damn sense. They act like we're gonna crumble if we realize that there's other beings. We have to be some pretty arrogant individuals that think that God is so omnipotent, all powerful, and He can't create nothing but us. Seriously,
I said that all my life.
So you mean to tell me that all these sightings around the globe, around the sphere, so everybody who don't know each other, who's drawing these pictures of these beings and these crafts, who don't know each other, are drawing the exact same thing? How? You got hieroglyphics with these things in them. Mm-hmm. You got paintings from the Renaissance with UFOs in them. There's so many different pieces of evidence out there that says that we're not alone. We're not alone. So why would you think that we're the only beings that was ever created? Do you not understand, if we're at a certain proximity to the sun where life is possible? Do you not understand the sun is a BB compared to some of these huge stars that's out here? So if these huge stars have all of this power, do you not understand that it is also possible that there are other planets that are at the exact proximity to those stars as well, that can also carry life and sustain life? Like, people don't think about that kind of thing. They just think
I probably go through a deeper wormhole. I mean, not wormhole. Oh, it's okay. He's not gonna bother you. Get back, Trump. Go get your popsicle. I probably go through a deeper rabbit hole than you do, because I'm like with like giants and the Anunnakis and things of that nature. Like I I have the Emerald tablets. I tell you, I read a lot. People think I'm just on Facebook all day. I read a lot. And
well, you have the books and the stuff, but I've also read what you've read as well, except for the what was the Emerald tablet. I read about it, but I don't have it. So we've been looking into the same rabbit holes. I promise you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my thing is that, like, even the Tartarian Empire, You know, human life has existed far longer than we are made to believe. Um, there's just been many resets in life. We can talk about, like, for example, the flood in the Christian Bible. The flood in the Christian Bible is also in the Emerald Tablet.
Mhm.
Um, it's in the book of Enoch as well,
Yes. Yes.
which was left out of the Bible. You know, so I don't doubt that that did not happen. I believe that it did happen, but I believe that it was a part of a reset for civilization, because it's like, oh, yep, nope, that didn't work. Let's just get rid of all this and try again, okay? Um, but you know, people are so hell bent on, you know, we've only been alive so long. Yep, yep. You know, we
And
only been
for
alive so long, and you know, if you I guess what I'm saying is, if you read the materials with an open mind and not based off of faith, like you just want to believe something is there, you just want to believe this and that, or you want to believe that everything that you've been taught in your life is true. If you read the word and you read the scripture, it's actually a lot of truth to it. But you just have to learn how to decipher it, and you have to learn how to intake that and then apply it to your life. Like
Mhm.
me, I'm very spiritual. I believe that I have been here many times before. I believe in reincarnation. Matter of fact, I think I was a Viking before. I was like a shield maiden. You know, um, maybe one time I could have been royalty in Egypt. Maybe I was a peasant. I don't know, you know, but I believe that I have been here many times before. And because I've opened my third eye, and because I read and I research and I do it with an open mind, I, I can recognize the signs. And I think that if more people did that, that's why I said my rabbit hole be going deep. Look, Billy probably will tell you, like, yeah, she be going deep. Look, he say I be wormholing. He don't even call it rabbit hole. He call it wormholing. But you done threw me off. Go, do your part. He's talking to me. Hold on.
And the thing is if you've heard what Mrs. Fields was saying, the thing is that you have to be open enough to absorb some things and look at things in a very wide view, because the narrow-minded traditional way of looking at things does not fit what logic is telling us. A lot of the things that we cannot explain on this planet, we cannot explain it. And for us to sit there and blindly think that we can assume a whole lot of stuff, the only thing that we do have to do, or we can do about some things, is assume, because we don't know, because we weren't there. You know, such as how the pyramids were built, or how the temples of Belbek has been created, with these amazingly huge stones that was transported miles from where these temples were built. You're not about to tell me human beings carried these, transported these enormous stones and created these temples, and these things were several hundred tons. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things we can't explain. So a lot of the stuff that has been presented to us, the general public, has been presented to us because they want to hoard the truth. Like, for instance, with the Vatican City, underneath the Vatican is vaults and vaults and vaults and libraries of the true history of royalty. They weren't Caucasian. They weren't Caucasian. When you go over in Europe, they have museums that have gold and crowns and all these jewels and stuff like that they've stolen from kings, from African kings. They have the skulls of these kings that they've murdered and robbed and pillaged all these jewels and crown jewels and gold and all this other stuff. How else would they get them? They weren't given to them. The royalty, the original royalty of England was Moors. They weren't white people. They weren't Caucasians. That's not my opinion. You can look it up yourself. You don't have to take my word for anything. Look it up yourself. My thing is that there has been lies upon lies upon lies that has been fed to the general populace of the world. Now, there are certain places that don't have the truth. They have the truth on full display, and that's one thing that they have for themselves. They have that. But when it comes to what we're talking about here, like you have to understand, you have to open your mind to a lot of different things. And you've all heard us talking about the rabbit holes. When I talk about the rabbit hole, when we talk about the wormholes, the rabbit holes, y'all look at this right here now. That says the pineal gland, the eye of God. If you want to do your due diligence about how important the pineal gland is, please do, because this is the core of your existence and stuff like that. I can't. Let me see. I can't read. I gotta make my screen larger. Hold on for a sec. There we go. Let me see. The Sumerian tablets from Umma in the John Rylands Library, Manchester. Okay, cool. The Wizard of Oz. No, I was playing. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Atlantean. Excuse me. The complete Dead Sea Scrolls in English. Wow, that's awesome right there. That's awesome. Yeah. The Ethiopian Bible in English complete. There's 88 books. And for reference, the Ethiopian Bible is among the oldest on earth. Y'all need to understand that the Ethiopian Bible is among the oldest on the planet. So if y'all didn't know, now you know.
I just want to, and that was just what was downstairs because I wasn't going upstairs.
Right. Right.
So I just wanted people to know that, like, I'm not just talking and I don't do my research method. What's this over here? Oh shoot, look, here go one right here that I've been reading.
Oh, I started reading that one. I never finished it, but I started reading that one.
Yeah, I'm halfway through.
Yeah, that's a good read.
Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to show that I'm not just talking out the side of my neck. I actually do read. I actually have the books. And it would behoove all of us to actually read and find out what the world is really about. We have one life. I think we owe it to ourselves to know the truth about that one life. And when I say that one life, again, remember I said I believe in reincarnation. So we have that one life as we are today in this vessel, in this body. We might have a second life. We may have a third life. We might have 75 lives. But the one that you know of, that you are aware of in this body today, it deserves to know the truth. And I'm gonna say it. I know people might think I'm crazy when I say it, but when you get to a point in life where you can accept the truth and truly become who you are and your purpose in life here, you'll stop reincarnating on this earth. Reincarnation. Okay, so let me explain what I mean by that. If we were to go by conspiracy, well, not even conspiracy theory, just ancient texts and things like that, we are reincarnated because we did not learn our life lessons when we were here the first time or the second time or the fifth time. It's kind of like school. You go to first grade, you go to second grade, you go to third grade. If you don't pass third grade, Well, not now, because they'll just pass your ass. But back in the days, if you didn't pass third grade, you was where? You was back in the third grade, right? And that's kind of the life cycle that I believe in, to where you've gone through things in your lifetime and you didn't learn your lesson completely, or maybe you did something wrong. Um, and then the universe spits you back onto earth and says, okay, let's try this again because you're not learning your lesson. But it is also said that we choose to come to earth. So again, huge rabbit hole. I drive Billy absolutely insane with my rabbit holes. But like, for example, I talked to Billy the other day and I said, I think this is my last visit to Earth, because I truly believe that I've learned what I had to learn. I've gone through so many things. I have no hatred. I have no karma. I have no soul contracts with anyone. And I believe that when I leave this earth, it's going to be my final time leaving this earth. And I'm going to ascend, and my spirit is going to be joyous and happy, instead of having to be, okay, now you got to come back and do all this mess again. I don't know. Not saying it's true. Again, I'm just saying it's not far-fetched. It could be. Who knows? I don't know. I know that was a lot. My bad.
No, I mean, my thing is that you're not wrong about nothing you said. Like, again, you're doing a lot of research that a lot of other people aren't doing. Like I said, when I got out of college, I started digging, and the stuff that I discovered pissed me off and intrigued me, because a lot of stuff I didn't know, like with the Anunnaki. It was I think 1998 when I first read about the Anunnaki and the giants that were upon this earth outside of David and Goliath. Like, it blew my freaking mind. And stuff like that. It blew my mind that the Smithsonian Institute, of all people, would destroy and bury and hide the truth. I thought they were in the business of uncovering the truth, and they buried and destroyed giant bones that were discovered that would have revealed that there were 32-foot tall human beings on this earth. Like, right. there were people who were average 8 feet tall. There were people who were average 12 and 13 feet. Like, the truth that had been bared and shared in a lot of different independent news forums was staggering. The stuff that I read in certain books, when I dug and I got references and I read this stuff, and I'm just like, well, they don't have a reason to freaking lie about this stuff. This is stuff that they put in books. And then if you read enough, if you do enough your due diligence, you'll see that a lot of the stuff that you can't really lie about, because the proof is right there. And some of the proof is still here that they can't cover up. And you can't explain it by man-made theories. You can't. Because we can't redo them. We can't do it again. So you're trying to tell me a lot of the stuff that we've discovered, a lot of the things that we've seen, and we literally see that it's structures right now. Like we were talking about a lot of the stuff just cannot be redone. With all the technology we have right now, we can't do it again. Like I was mentioning of Bell Bank.
Didn't I share that one thing with you? I mean, just for not to interrupt, but for example, like you would see those huge doors on cathedrals.
Yeah.
And then the latch would be on top.
Yeah.
So you had to have some kind of giant to unlatch the door. I mean, these are just things, like you said, you can't dispute that.
Nope. And then you got steps on some of these temples that are enormous. And then on the side, you got small steps, like they look like they're for human steps. Explain that. Who's stepping down these big steps?
Right.
So there's footprints that are in line, like stone, like they're not carvings. It's a footprint that's in this stone. This is, I don't know if it was granite. I forgot what kind of stone this is. That's on, and it's I think it's like it's bigger than a 6 foot tall person. So you trying to tell me somebody just etched that in there? They just carved that in? Like, there's certain things that just don't make sense for people to explain away as man-made. Like like these temples that were uncovered. These are temples that were uncovered. These aren't temples that was made and then covered up with dirt. No, these were temples that were buried way, 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 way down. And you mean to tell me some of the stuff that's carved into these temples, they depict technology that we never seen before. The Babylonian gardens was a marvel beyond belief, and they had electric, like they had a lot of stuff. So for me, when you're talking about the Anunnaki, some of that Anunnaki made it with humans. That's how some of the giants were created. So you have to understand the Nephilim. Yes, I'm sorry,
and that's actually in your Bible.
Yes, yeah, and my thing is the truth sometimes is stranger than fiction, and that's what makes a lot of people move in disbelief, because they can't wrap their heads around what they've been traditionally taught. Now they're being introduced to actual truth and fact, and they can't get rid of the tradition. They can't get rid of what they've been taught as they were taught by their grandma and their mamas and their mamas' mamas and their mamas' mamas' mamas. They only know what they knew. They didn't even know what they didn't know.
Yeah, that's why I said it's not their fault.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, just like you said, it's not their fault. That's what they were taught.
No, and that's the thing. That's the craziest part of it, is that there are so many unexplained phenomena in this world that you can't explain away by human invention. You can't. Like those drawings, the what is it called? The not Aztec. It's called the NACA lines, or whatever the case is, where these huge, enormous drawings that you can't see unless you are in the sky.
Yeah.
Like how would a human being know the proportions of what was being drawn? We talking about a little teeny behind human beings. How will we know the proportions to draw? And then that you can go all the way up to the top and then see it, and it's in proportion.
Well, that's no different than, you do realize that that NASA, I want to say NASA, don't quote me, but I know it's some federal agency. So let's just say that some federal agency owns a part of the Grand Canyon. You can go to the Grand Canyon, but there's a certain part that you can't go and visit. And it's been reported that in the past, a couple of people got through. Hey, Maurice. That a couple of people had gotten through, and what they saw were ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics and statues. Yeah. So how is that possible?
Yeah.
In the Grand Canyon.
Right.
So there's a lot, and I just say that to say that there's a lot that they're not telling us. I don't know one way or another. I'm not a archaeologist. I'm not none of that. But it does make me question what the government tells us, because they're hiding a lot of stuff. I can't go to Antarctica and fly over this ice wall, if it is an ice wall or if it's a country. I don't know. But I don't know because you won't let nobody fly over it. I can't go into the Grand Canyon because you're going to come out with M16 and tell me to turn around. There's a lot of places that we can't go to, so it just makes you wonder, like, okay, well, what the hell is y'all hiding from us, and why?
Right. And for reference, this is what I was talking about, the stones of Baalbek that was hoisted to the temples and whatnot. To put this in perspective for you, each one of these stones, all right, listen to this, each one of these stones is about 62 feet long by 14 feet high and about 12 feet thick. All right. And each one weighs between 750 to 800 tons. That's each stone. And they were hoisted and lifted up just like our brick masons, they do the bricks and stuff like that. They were precisely placed upon top of each other to create this temple. We're talking about 1,650,000,000 pounds. To put that in perspective. Now, explain to me what human being you know doing that? What ropes are you knowing is going to transport stones from a quarry miles away over to where these temples were built and precisely placed in place on each other? That's just one example. And like Jessica was saying, like she was saying about the Antarctic, like why and right here in America, the Grand Canyon. There's places we cannot go. And what the story that they'll feed us is, well, this hazardous. It's unstable. Bull. That's bull. So there's a lot of lies that's been fed to us about certain things, even with Antarctica. Now, the theories and stuff like that I've seen was that there is a race of individuals down there. And like you said, all the presidents, I think they said all the presidents in certain places, they visited there. But we cannot, as tourists, go there. There's nothing we can do to go there, go over it, can do anything. Now, satellite images have been seen, and some of them have been doctored and stuff like that. But something is up with Antarctica. It's either an entrance to center Earth or what. I don't know what's going on there, but there's a total different situation going on in Antarctica that they're not telling us and whatnot. And this isn't theory. You just do your own research. I'm not asking y'all to believe nothing I'm saying. Go and look for yourself. Go research it yourself.
Same here. I let me say that too. I'm not saying nothing that I'm saying is true. Research it yourself. I just find it odd that there are certain. We can go everywhere else. We can go to Germany. We can go to Italy. We can go to. Well, we can't go to Russia. Not like that. But we can pretty much go wherever we want. But that Antarctica, there are certain. Area 51. If it exists or not. If you were to go there, you're not getting past the gates unless you are cleared to go in. Antarctica, you cannot go there. Grand Canyon, they'll let you to a certain point, but past that certain point, they're like, nah, you can't come over here. So those are interesting facts to make you kind of question, like, okay, well, what the hell are y'all hiding from us? And why? And guess what? If I want to go to Antarctica, if I know it's cold and I might freeze to death, guess what? That's on me. If I paid for my ticket and I wanted to go, then let me go. And if I freeze to death, that's on me. That's my problem. But you can't.
And that's just really something to really think about when you looking at those type of things. And it's just weird. Like there's just too much that's not explained. You know what I'm saying? Now, this is what these stones look like, what I was talking about.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And they're enormous and whatnot.
Well, that's no different than the pyramids.
Yeah,
the pyramids. If you want to go by the conspiracy theory, they were already here, and already built. Like the movies that we see of the Egyptians with the ropes and stomping in the mud to make bricks, that was all baloney. If we go by that theory. It's claimed that, and guess what? I actually believe it. You know why? Because not nothing that a human being has made has lasted for 3,000-4,000 years.
Right.
We can't even build a road without potholes. So you mean to tell me they built a pyramid that sustained winds, sandstorms and everything like that?
The pyramid
in harsh conditions?
Afterwards.
Nah.
Yo, I got an announcement, yo.
What you got? What announcement you got, man? What announcement
What's
you got?
announcement?
Come here, boys. Come here.
Oh!
Hey, boy.
Hey!
Hey, what's good?
What's
What's
up?
good?
Oh, hold on.
This is the younger one. And the older one over there.
What's going on, man? Give me pound. Give me pound. What's good with you, man? What's up?
What's up, boys?
You think he's grown? Put your head down.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Oh, look at you. You look just like him, too. Lord have mercy. Don't worry, your daddy a handsome guy.
What is that? What you got worried about?
Dad, stop. Stop, Dad. Not in front of the kids. Not in front of the kids.
I ain't gonna use that soon, man. Oh man. Oh, I wasn't ready. How you boys doing? How you young men doing?
Speak up.
Good.
Awesome.
Good.
Awesome.
Good to see y'all.
Gonna pop some firecrackers tomorrow.
That's what's up. Y'all ready for the weekend?
Yeah.
What y'all cooking?
You see how he looked at his dad?
What y'all cooking for what daddy cooking?
He looked at you like, well, Dad, what
Dad, what we doing? Come on, give us the menu. Give us the menu.
Oh no, we're going somewhere. So we're gonna do a barbecue. So it's gonna be like wings and stuff.
Oh, wings and stuff. Okay, cool.
Okay.
My job, I'm bringing a drink. That's my job.
It is so good to see you guys all together.
Right. Nice to finally meet y'all.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
He said that's enough.
Right. And do any of them have a musical gene in their body?
What's that?
Does any of them have a musical gene in their body?
Not a lick.
Huh?
Not a lick.
Okay. Yeah, we were just pretty much talking about a plethora of some things. We just happened to fall on some things that because we started with spirituality versus religion, and we kind of cycled around to Antarctica, the pyramids, Anunnaki, the Nephilims. Like we've been circling around a few things. The moon landing. We were talking about a lot of stuff. So
you went around the whole conspiracy world, huh?
Yeah. Well,
Basically, well, for me personally, basically the topic is to finally learn the truth, you have to unlearn so many lies, and that for our lifetimes we've been lied to and indoctrinated in so many different things that now if you truly want to learn the truth, you have to unlearn what you've been taught before you can even learn the truth. And that there's a lot of lies with religion, with government, with politics, just overall, that once you come across a couple of lies, it starts to make you question everything.
Listen, I think for me, that really got me paying attention to a lot of this stuff is all the videos of the moon landing. That joke is wild. Like they could pull it. I think they screwed up because back then the movie technology was pretty convincing. But looking at what we know now about CG, what we know now about how space is supposed to work, and then looking at these old videos, we're like, nah, bro, none of this is real. And then on top of that, when you talk about these Egyptian pyramids, them blocks are too big. If with the technology we have now, imagine the technology we have now, we couldn't build the pyramids.
I watched a video real quick. I watched a video one time. They were trying to recreate like how they would transport just one of the bricks that go on, well, stones that go
I
to the
watched the same
pyramid.
video. Mhm.
And they put it like on a dump truck or something like that, and it tilted.
Yeah, it broke the dump truck.
It broke the truck. So I'm like, well, if we can't even do it now, I can't imagine a whole bunch of people with some ropes and some trees making some kind of pulley. And then how do you get it up that high?
Yeah, what I call it is like the Great Reset. I mean, I guess we could involve aliens if we want to, but I think humanity had reached a certain point of technology because the pyramids are not tombs. They already discovered they're not tombs. They're for some other type of power.
They're not what?
They're not tombs. Like that's what they sold us when I was in school. That the pyramids were tombs for like the pharaohs and whatnot. They're not tombs. There's no grave bodies in there. There's no sarcophagus in there. All the sarcophagus are in other types of tombs or whatnot. The pyramids, they really have no idea what they're for at all. But they think it's for some type of power generation type thing or whatever. But anyways, my working theory right now is that there was a great reset. I think human had evolved to a certain point that they were able to actually do that, and something happened similar to like a nuclear holocaust of sorts or whatever. I don't know if it was that per se that kind of killed off so many. You ever see that movie C on the series C with Jason Momoa?
What was it? You say C?
Yeah, C.
I haven't.
Okay. So I don't know. The premise of the series is that all of a sudden people started going blind, and because everybody just started going blind, basically, population basically got decimated, and everybody kind of got sent back to the Stone Age until people, how blind people eventually learn how to work their way around. But because basically a whole reset happened with humanity, that they had to rebuild back up again from like a Stone Age period of sorts. So basically then they started making mythologies around the big structures that were around them that were kind of failing, like the big buildings, because we could see watching the show and we could clearly tell that this was an old building or skyscraper that kind of fell over, but they're making this whole story about it because they can't see. But then there's a set of twins that are born. Both of them can see. They're the first ones that can see in like centuries, and they're considered witches. In this, it's a pretty good premise to a whole thing. But it kind of tells you, it kind of shows my idea of that.
What is it called? I want to watch it now.
Yeah, it was.
It's on Prime Video.
Okay.
It started off on Apple TV.
Yeah, it's on Apple too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think something similar like that happened. It was like a great reset. I don't know what happened. Some type of cataclysm.
Well, yeah, we discussed that earlier, where I think that there have been multiple resets.
Maybe.
Kind of like the Tartarian Empire.
Jessica.
Oh, and it got my boo in there. Okay, yeah, I'm definitely watching that.
I thought once I said Jason Momoa, you'd be like,
no, I ain't seen. I don't really watch TV. I'm dead serious. I don't watch TV.
But you know Jason Momoa.
I do know him. I done watched Aquaman 11 times.
That's messed up.
What?
Jessica, it's been 23 times. Okay, 23.
23. Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna go watch that tomorrow. Anyway.
Shit, all the
But
stuff.
no, there's been like a whole bunch, like the Tartarian Empire. I believe that was a reset. No matter of fact, have y'all heard about have y'all ever heard about like the Cabbage Patch Kids?
Yeah, I remember when you mentioned that. I went and checked it out.
You went to your rabbit hole.
That's crazy.
What's that?
So the Cabbage Patch Kids, remember that was a big phenomenon in our
I remember
younger age.
Yeah, I remember the toys.
Well, there's supposedly, I'm gonna say supposedly, allegedly, where what they did, and this was a big time where the insane asylums were a big thing as well. So what they would do is they would keep the adults that were willing participants, and then the ones that weren't willing participants, they would put them in these insane asylums, and then they would create these children, kind of like a matrix kind of thing, in incubators and stuff like that. And because what better way to reset than to wipe out the older generation, because the older generation would know what was going on prior to the reset. But if you're just simply having children, you can mold them and shape them and program them into what you want them to believe is actual truth. Not saying it's true, not saying I believe it. I do believe it's plausible. I'll say that. So yeah, that was that Cabbage. I watched it, and because it was right around the same time as I want to say Nikolai Tesla, when they got rid of him, because he had the energy, the ether. And you notice they took the ether off of the periodic table. Ether's not even on that anymore. There's a lot. I think there's a lot we don't know in this earth. It's a lot, and I think it comes from corporate greed. Like, so for example, if I'm Nikolai Tesla and I can give you free energy, and I can make electric cars, because electric cars, it didn't start with Elon. We had electric cars way back in the day.
Long time ago.
But then the oil companies was like, yeah, but we can't make no money off of that. So you got to go. Or the electric company was, well, we can't make no money off of that. You got to go. And it just amazes me that somebody with such a name as Nikolai Tesla and his findings, that you can't really find much on him, because they pretty much destroyed everything, because they don't want you to harvest free energy or to be able to live in that way, because corporate greed.
Well, when you talk about that, it takes me back to the gentleman who created the Venus Project. And the Venus Project was basically, I'm trying to get a good, if you think about the Jetsons and stuff like that, you never seen crops in the Jetsons. You never seen farmland in the Jetsons. You know why? Because all of those skyscrapers, those were the farms. They were vertical. They weren't flat. And the whole building was irrigated with purified water and all that stuff, so that way nothing would be affected by insects or pesticides or anything like that. So the premise of the Venus Project was to create an efficient society, and he created in round in so that each city was round, as far as the parameters and stuff like that. Had their own rail systems. It was efficient to the letter, and the government rejected his plan. Go back to what Mrs. Fields just said, is that they saw that, okay, well, we can't make money off of oil and fuel consumption, so we got to reject this, because this is just too good. Because now we're relying on solar power, we're recycling purified water, we don't have to rely on the farmers, all this other stuff. So it was a whole thing. So if you ever look up the Venus Project, you'll see it in great detail. And the guy, I think, has since passed away, but His idea was genius, but they didn't want that. They don't want anything about, something that's going to be self-sufficient and clean. They don't want that. They want something they can profit off of everybody and be greedy. You look at all
Well,
these other cities around the planet, but yet they say America's number one. It's the greatest country in the world. But all these other countries, Japan, cities in China, Dubai, all these different places that has better technology, more efficient environments than America. But yet we got Flint, which is a whole major city with dirty water. Just stupid stuff.
they can do it. They can clean that water.
Of course they can.
They can clean that water. I mean, that's no doubt. But what I was going to mention before I forget, that's kind of like people. This is my tinfoil hat. Matter of fact, I'm gonna get me a hat that says tinfoil. I'm gonna buy me one. I'm gonna wear it sometimes on here. When that shooting happened in Buffalo, New York, right? And that off-duty black man got shot, the security guard. You guys realize that he had just broken like he had just made a engine that was water, that could run on water. Now, mind you, I think 20 years ago, there was another guy. It was a white guy. I want to say Italian, actually, if I want to be specific. There was another guy. He made the same engine that would run on water. And he got invited to dinner, I guess, by maybe people who said they wanted to invest in his business and stuff. And they sat down to eat, and he started choking. And the last words he said was, "They poisoned me." Now, I say that to say this. When's the last time you heard anything about that shooting? That shooting, you heard about it 2 weeks tops. That was planned by the government. That wasn't some rogue white boy that just wanted to go to Buffalo and shoot up some black people.
Nope.
That man was a target because he had, once again, successfully made an engine that can run off of water. And again, it goes back to corporate greed. If cars can run off of water, we're broke. He gotta go. So again, like, this all kind of ties into where it's like, I don't believe nothing nobody says. I don't believe none of it, because especially when it comes to government, politics, power, elites, these people will do whatever they feel they need to do to remain in power. And they'll off their own mama if they have to. I promise you that. They'll feed her, they'll make her a nice little pie for dinner. It'll be the last pie she ate. What's that?
That's one of the renderings of the Venus Project.
Oh, I gotta look that up.
Yeah.
Oh, yep, I'll be looking that up after we get off.
But yeah, so but like you said, and it's true, anything that's why when people invent these things and come up with this stuff, we always see in the comments, please protect this person. God, please provide a sphere of protection for this person. Like the black lady who came up with a way of, I think it was nanobites or something, nanos that would attack cancer cells exclusively. No chemotherapy. And it works. She came up with a cure for cancers that use nanomites. And those things would was it nanos or was it a laser? It was something, but it was so simple. It was something that was so good that would eliminate chemotherapy. and would eliminate a lot of the death rates that cancer patients had. And she's a Black woman, and she came up with this technology, and it was just like mind blowing that this was it was amazing. But how much do you hear about this woman and her amazing creation? You don't. Same thing with the electric with the engines that ran off water. That's not a new thing. Somebody already came up with that, and he disappeared. You know what I'm saying? So for me, this government, I swear, they want to be in such control that it hinders technological advances. We used to have pride in our advances and our inventions and our thing. This country used to pride itself on American-made brilliance. Where is that now? Where is that now?
So
and then when people come up with brilliant ideas,
they're trying to turn
America. For good reason.
They're trying to turn America into a consumer country. I mean, the number one consumer in the world is the United States. So that there's a incentive to maintain the United States as a consumer country. That way, you can ship off all the manufacturing and all the creation and all the producing to other countries.
You're real low.
Oh, you can't hear me?
No, not really. Not like I hear Dedrick.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
That might be a good thing. That's better. God, I shouldn't have said nothing. Okay, yeah, I can hear you.
Pump up the volume. Pump up the volume. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot of incentives to maintain the United States as a consumer country, so that way they can manufacture, basically use the rest of the world as slaves. That's why they can pay them really cheap money and have them produce really cheap products. I mean, that's why having Trump try to move, manufacturing back to the United States. That's why there's so much pushback against it. There's a lot of incentives. But again, I think a lot of it, as much I'm always more than willing to delve into the whole conspiracy rabbit hole. But I think a lot of stuff kind of falls through a little bit of kind of natural phenomenon and just corporate greed in general, right? There's just no incentive to pay workers more, especially now. I was actually looking up some videos with this whole AI thing coming up. People are talking about PLE, post-labor economics, because eventually, we're gonna get to this point where robots and AI is doing everything, right? So how do we're gonna have a lot of people without jobs, and if you have nobody without jobs, how are they gonna make money? And if they have no money, how are they gonna buy products? Like it's a nasty circle that happens really quick. So there's all this stuff talking about, post-labor. So again, they're trying to move away from this job labor-based economics and move it. That's why, there's not much. There's a lot of stuff getting in the way to try to return manufacturing or any type of production back to the United States. I mean, you gotta think about it. How does the United States make money? If nothing's made here, how does it make money?
Yeah, but I remember I saw there was an interview with Elon Musk. I don't remember who it was with. It was a good interview because the guy actually asked him, like, you're really into AI, you're building robots, and you got Neuralink and all these things. Like, don't you think that could one day become dangerous for the American citizen? And he says, yeah, it could. I don't want to see that, but it could. And they were talking about what you just said, it's probably going to replace a lot of jobs. And he had mentioned at that point that there would be a pay across the board for Americans.
UBI, Universal Basic Income.
Yes. And I found that interesting because I was like, well, I don't know if I want that though.
Yeah, the first time I heard of UBI was with Andrew Yang. I don't know if you remember when he was running.
Yeah.
That's when he started first. He was the first one to start talking about that. I liked it at first, and I kept on looking into it. They started some small projects where they were doing UBI in certain like communities, and every single one of those communities failed, and they failed miserably. The reality is, people need more than just jobs. People need a reason. People need meaning.
Yeah. No, I wasn't. Before you continue, I wasn't saying it as like a good thing. I was just bringing it up because I have remembered that part.
Okay.
As far as AI taking over, people's jobs.
But yeah, no,
I wouldn't want that.
Yeah, it's just it's as much
people. Some people want to go to work because they want purpose in life.
Not some people. All people need to go to work for a reason. Humans are made to suffer. As much as people don't like hearing it, we're made to struggle. We're made to suffer. Like that's why when we get free food and we don't have to work for the food, we gain weight. Why are we shocked by that? Imagine we used to live in like farming communities where you had to be out in the fields working, doing all that hard labor, and then eventually you'd be able to, after all that hard labor, eat the food that you procured, right? Or you have to chase down an animal for who knows how many hours before you eventually get it, and then have to process it appropriately before you can eat it. So the exercise was in connection with the food at all times. Now we've separated that. I could work. I could work a little bit. I could work a lot. I still can get access to food. Right? So all of a sudden we have all these weight-induced diseases all of a sudden, because we're actually, and it, so much so that the doctor, the prescription the doctor gives you when you gain weight, what is it? Go to the fucking gym and suffer. You gotta go and work. You gotta go. And,
you know what this reminds me of? What's that one movie? With the robot. Oh God, it's a cartoon.
I know what you're talking about. It's Wall-E.
Wall-E, yes, that's what that reminds me of. Where they was all on the spaceship, and all of them got real fat, and they was rolling. They was rolling around looking like you.
Yeah. Oh man.
I'm sorry. You did it. No, you did it. You did it. You did it in a chair. So you set yourself up for that one.
I'm over here minding my own business. I get caught with a left hook.
I'm sorry. I still love you though. I still love you.
You caught a stray, bro. You caught a stray.
Yeah, no, that wasn't a stray. That was directed, bro. That was directed. Stray.
That's what it reminds me of, though. Like we just consume, and that's how we end up.
I think
we got to the point that we become such
this is one thing that I think we don't think about, because I'm willing to dive into conspiracies, but there's a certain like natural phenomenon to this aspect where businesses are rewarded on growth without like anything that we know of that grows without limit is called a cancer. Like you have a growth of cells. This is a immortal cell that keeps on multiplying over and over again. Eventually, what it does is it kills the host. So this concept of businesses always wanting to grow, it ultimately creates problems for society. There needs to be a natural competition always. There needs to be something to push up against that. And that steps out the concept of conspiracy. It goes back to the concept of just this natural phenomenon that doesn't have a natural barrier.
My thing is when you got a whole bunch of people who replace hard work, ethics, and sacrifice for a better outcome, and you replace that with convenience you replace that with
Just one thing.
enabling people to do the least and think that they can receive the most. You have a society of lethargic, lazy, enabled, entitled-minded people, and those people, like a lot of society falls from that because it doesn't build strong people. Like if you look at the way the Chinese society works, they work off of a lot of strong, hard work. Look at their military. Everybody, they get those kids, they get those individuals, and they train these kids in hand-to-hand combat. They train these kids on how to survive off the land. They train these like it's a whole different culture. You understand? Now, if you put American people right now in a situation, let's just say that this weak behind power grid goes down, it would be chaos. It would throw America back to the Stone Age because people don't know how. There would be patches of people who could survive. You would have the Amish people grinning from ear to ear. They wouldn't miss a beat.
They're gonna clock
You
up.
got some people in certain country places and stuff like that, and I'm talking about country people who have trained their kids how to shoot, how to hunt, and they do that now to this day. They teach their children how to survive off the land. Should anything happen and they can't get to no grocery store, they got seeds out there planting, they got gardens and stuff like that. They got all this stuff going on.
And
they teach
chickens
their
and
kids how to
ducks.
plant. They teach their kids how to fight, how to shoot a gun, all that stuff. And you let some of these entitled people in a lot of these places hit the wall. Y'all remember when MySpace went down? How crazy people went because MySpace stopped working for a weekend? They daggone near lost their freaking mind. And we talking about MySpace. Like people don't know how to survive off nothing today. Nothing. It would be pure chaos if this weak power grid went down. If a heaven forbid.
I mean, you also got to realize
our power grid, we are toast. I'm telling you.
You got to realize too how much agricultural knowledge we've lost. Like just lost. It's gone. We don't even know that we've lost it. It's gone. Mm-hmm. It's the information about agriculture in general. We lost it. And it doesn't take long for it to be gone. Because I remember the decision I made when I stopped taking these kids to like McDonald's. It was when I used to take them to McDonald's all the time, and I would get them the Happy Meal. And in the Happy Meal, there was the thing of apples. They loved apples. They loved the little slices of apples in the plastic bag. They absolutely love the apples. No problem. So every time this, that, and the other. Then one time when I was at home, they kept on bugging me for the apples. Like, Daddy, we want apples, I reached over and grabbed the red apple and I handed it to them. And they're like, ew, what's this? That's when I realized there's such a disconnect for them. Because the apple they're used to comes in a plastic bag, has no red skin on it, and it's completely peeled and sliced. That's an apple for them. So that's when I just started actually taking them apple picking. I started getting them attached to the earth where things come from. So they understand, like, no, it doesn't come from grocery stores. No, it doesn't come from this. Chickens are living animals that we chop off their heads and we pluck the feathers off. This you need to reattach them back to the earth and reality, or else, they won't understand when something interrupts that process, what's going on.
I completely agree with that, and that's why I do the things that's why I have chickens. That's why I have ducks. That's why I garden. I have, matter of fact, every time I cut open an apple, I think I got one coming up. Every time I cut up an apple, I put the seeds in a Ziploc bag with some with a wet paper towel. All the seeds I can save, and I got one that sprouted. So hopefully we can plant that. And y'all already know my kids hunt. My kids fish. Ethan was fishing all day today. Matter of fact, when he came home, he stank. I was like, please go take a shower. Do not touch nothing. Go take a shower. He caught a big ass carp, like a 30-pound carp. I teach, but not me myself, but we laid that foundation because we want them to know, like, if shit ever hits the fan and you can't go to a grocery store, I want you to eat. And guess what? If you have an apple, you can grow a tree. Look, let me tell you, whenever I make salads, when you cut the end off of a salad, if you put it in a bowl of water, it will regrow. All you have to do is let it regrow a little bit and put it in the dirt.
Yeah, the romaine lettuce is another one. What's
celery,
another one? Celery does it.
Garlic. You can slice a tomato and put it in dirt, and the tomato plant will grow.
Yeah,
but see, that's why a lot of corporations also, well, I won't say corporations in themselves, but that's why a lot of places whenever you see something sold that's seedless, I don't eat it. I don't eat nothing that's seedless because that means it's manufactured.
You heard what happened
with bananas. If it don't have seeds, I'm not eating it.
You heard what happened with bananas, right?
Yeah.
How they almost went extinct?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they had to hurry up and find another random breed of bananas and crossbreed it with ones that we eat. Because there was so many bananas of the same species that eventually a disease got caught on them, and they almost went extinct.
Because if you cut a real banana, you'll see seeds.
Seeds all up in it.
In it. The bananas we eat, they're manufactured. They're not real.
Ain't nothing organic about that thing, man. I think.
And I'll tell you this much too. There are some times when I'll feed, like, let's say, for example, I can get 2 watermelons, right? Say one is seedless and say one has seeds. And I put the leftovers for the ducks and the chickens. They won't touch the one that does not have seeds. It will rot. The one that has seeds, they'll eat. The one that doesn't have seeds, they won't eat.
Wait. You said who won't touch them?
My ducks and chickens, and they love watermelon.
Okay.
Yeah, and they love watermelon. So if an animal won't touch it,
they know something's up.
One that like really lives off of scraps. Then I know something where I'd be like, oh no, we're not eating that one again. We're not getting that no more.
Yeah, I did an experiment on butter versus margarine. That's why I always use butter.
Margarine's not.
Huh?
The thing, margarine is the majority of what you'll find in the store. It's actually really hard to find butter.
Margarine is one molecule away. Margarine is one molecule away from plastic.
I don't like that because there's a lot of things that's one molecule away from something.
Look.
So I don't like that.
If it's one molecule, I'm not using it. I don't care. That's why I don't even buy margarine at all. I don't mess with margarine.
I don't do margarine. I got rid of all seed oils. I don't use seed oils. I use peanut oil. I use avocado oil, and I use corn oil. But I don't use any other seed oils. I don't use that soy oil, vegetable oil, none of that.
Yeah, like they our food sucks, and they've been poisoning us for years, and I don't think there's too much we can do about it, but to get educated about it and avoid those foods,
I mean, everybody forgets about the power of the consumer. If we don't buy it, they have to stop selling it. It's really that simple.
Right.
But the thing is, we
But
buy it,
I
right?
think
And the
for
reason,
us,
hold on, the reason we buy it too is because it's cheaper.
convenient. It's
No,
cheap and it's convenient.
it's
I was
cheaper.
gonna
It's
say,
convenient.
look. So for example, when I make my mac and cheese, I buy block cheese and I shred my own cheese.
Yeah.
And my sister-in-law be like, "Why don't you just buy the shredded cheese already? It's the same price." And I'm like, "Because it's coated with plastic, because so it doesn't stick together.
Yeah.
Those can cause cancer." I said, "So I don't do that. I would rather get. I mean, I know the block of cheese might not be as great, but it's better than that plastic coated stuff.
That's
So I'm gonna
if
take my
people-
chance with that before I
Yeah.
take my chance with the plastic coated stuff. You know." I said, "So it's just about educating ourselves about what we're consuming."
Yeah, I mean, as long as you head towards what's better, they have to adjust, change, alter to be able to fit the consumer.
Budget.
Right? That's the whole reason. Yeah, they have to budget appropriately. I mean, you see RFK
Because it's
forcing them to get rid of certain dyes, and now those dyes are not available.
And here's the thing, though,
what
but
would have
for other,
solved it from the beginning is if people stop buying them damn Fruit Loops. If people
but here's
stop
the thing.
like,
Our country is literally one of the very few only countries that allows those things. Like,
yeah.
I can
Yeah.
go to the. I remember when I was going to the German, the German place, you know, for my aunt to pick stuff up, and I picked up a Fanta because I wanted to see something. I picked up a Fanta, a soda, and then I went and bought a Fanta from like just our regular gas station, and the additional ingredients versus the one that actually came from Germany was diabolical.
Mm.
Like a lot of countries don't allow that stuff. We allow,
Mhm.
well, no, not we as in us. Our government allows it because it's what you say, it's cheap and it's profitable. Yeah, throw whatever you want in there. And you can charge them $5 for a bag of air, and you can put whatever you want in there.
no, I mean, you can say we allow it. Again, like one thing America prides ourselves on is choice. Choice. If anything, they love saying you have the choice. The problem is just because you have the choice doesn't mean you make good ones. And as a consumer base, we make very bad choices on what we eat, what we consume, what we purchase. We're bad at choosing what to shop for.
You're right. I'm not arguing that.
Yeah.
I mean, I shop good. I'm not speaking for myself.
Yeah.
I shop. There's always fresh veggies, fresh vegetables. There's very few processed items in here. Almost everything I make is fresh. I think except for pasta. I gotta get my handle on that one.
I mean, you're a stay-at-home mom, so that's nice.
Yeah, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I can do that.
You have more options. You have more options to be able to stay home and actually make stuff from scratch because that's time consuming. It's hella time.
It is. It is. I'm not downing nobody on that. I'm not.
Yeah.
But you still need to be careful that just because you need things of convenience doesn't mean that you can't read a label and distinguish maybe this is better than the other. Or you know what? Is it going to take me an extra 5 minutes to prep this? I mean, I did it when I was working. I did it too. This is not because I'm just at home. When I was working, I did the same thing because I want my family to be healthy as possible. I know they're going to consume things that are not healthy, whether in school, whether out, with snacks or whatever. So I still have to do my best to be healthy. And I did that when I was working too. That just meant maybe I stayed up 10 minutes. I stayed up 10 minutes later and prepped, I don't know, cut up some string beans instead of emptying them out of a can. So, I mean, I get what you're saying, but it's not a total excuse.
Yeah, I mean,
You can do it.
again, I mean, we could definitely delve into feminism right here because feminism pulls a lot of mothers out of the house. And why are we looking for so much convenience? It's because ain't nobody in the house. So the short time that you do have in the house, you got to cut as many corners as you possibly can to get the job done.
Yeah, but I just told you that even when I worked, I made fresh vegetables.
And like I said, we live in a convenient
I'm just saying it's not impossible.
It's not impossible, but it makes it
Because
very.
guess what? A lot of those, hold on, and I'm gonna keep it a buck. A lot of those mothers, they'll spend 10 minutes on their phone,
Yeah.
scrolling Facebook, or they'll spend 2 hours at the club, or they'll do whatever for their time, but they can't take an extra 5-10 minutes to cut up some fresh things and soak them and then cook them.
I'm gonna wrap it up into one word for you: priority.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna wrap it up into one word: priority. Right? If your priority is your children, your family, and the health of that parent, then that's what you're gonna focus on. You're gonna focus on making sure that they're healthy and they're well off, instead of making sure that you're comfortable and living a life of luxury. And like, it's very, we've entered into a very self-centered part of life, because the whole point of parent and family is you sacrifice for the family, because the family goes on, it moves on, it needs to grow and survive and be healthy.
But you got to understand, a lot of people, like these people in this neo society right now, everything is a microwave mentality. Ain't nobody worried about that. I ain't saying no, ain't nobody, but there's only clusters of us who are worried or concerned about the health and well-being of ourselves and our family. Because people can say all they want. Oh, well, I love my kids. Or do you really?
Nah.
Do you really? Let's look at your shopping cart and see what you got.
Yeah,
you killing yourself and your children.
Man, as soon as you say let's look at the shopping cart,
yourself and your children. The only thing that you got on your mind is
it today?
But that's my whole point. Like you got these mothers who are getting these stipends from the government, and it's not coming out of your pocket. So why not get the best stuff for that is going to sustain you and your children? You are killing yourself and your kids. You're creating an environment, and you're setting your kids and yourself up for diabetes. You're setting yourself up for all kinds of health issues and stuff like that, because you're just not eating healthy. You can't say you don't got it, because when you do have it, you spend it on lobster and shrimp. Like, what are you doing?
Enticed in chicken
again,
right? Microwavable nuggets.
And every other snack that got everything on the bag that you can't read. I'm not saying every now and again we might do a little dabble and snack on some of those things here and there, but a lot of these people, they don't care about that stuff anymore because of the society that we live in. Everything is about now. I want this now. I want whatever they want, and they don't care about reading the labels. They don't care about that. Jess was talking about how she cuts up that. Hey, those chicks are not taking no time to cut up no damn string beans. They can barely cook. They consider top ramen cooking. That's not cooking. You know what I'm saying? That's what they think it is. They think it's cooking.
Yeah.
And that's all I was pointing out.
We live in a very selfish, self-serving society, and it doesn't benefit most people.
And that's all I was pointing out. Like, I do, because I've been on both sides of the fence. I've worked and I stayed home. And even when I worked, I still took the time to make sure that my family ate healthy. I don't pour string beans out of a can. This is not what I personally do. Because honestly, it doesn't take long to prepare a meal. Now, if we're talking about making pasta from scratch, that might take a little longer, even though I know how to do it in like 10 minutes, But they're not even trying to take the time to learn how to do that. All you need is some flour, some eggs, some milk or water, whichever your preference is. Roll it out, and you can cut it up. You boil it in some water, and you have pasta, right? So It's not that it takes a lot of time. It just takes the want to do it. And I want my family to be healthy. And I don't like, I very rarely cook. Like today, I made coleslaw from scratch because we got pulled pork. Um, and we have, for July 4th weekend, I've cut up my string beans because my sister-in-law is going to want fresh string beans and garlic. I've already cut up my garlic. I didn't buy the garlic in a jar. I just cook fresh. But if I'm being honest with you, it really doesn't take that much time. It doesn't take that much time.
Yeah, I mean, can we just clarify one thing? I know you keep saying you were working, but I don't think you were working to the point where you could like hold down a whole household.
I was a store manager. I worked from 6:30 to 6:30.
5 days a week?
Sometimes 6 if somebody called out. Sometimes 7 if there was inventory. Look, I worked so much that one day my father-in-law pulled me to the side and was talking about me stepping down from my job because Billy might as well be a single father because I was never home. Yeah.
So wait. So you work at 6 to 6, and then you say you're still coming back and you're making pasta and you're doing all this other stuff. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm telling you. Was I tired? Yeah.
I mean,
did I feed my family? Yeah. I didn't dump out a can of string beans from a can that I don't know what rat was in their manufacturing plant and pooped in it. I don't do that.
I mean, how long were you
buy is fresh.
How long were you running at this level? You're doing these 12 hours and then still doing the whole thing.
I did this for 20 years, so pretty much the whole time that I was with Billy, with the exception of with the boys, I was home for 2.5 years. And then with Monica, I've been home for 4 years. So in between that time, yeah, I worked my butt off. And I still came home and cooked.
All right, well, do you that reality, do you find that to be the norm or the exception?
It doesn't matter. I cared about my family.
I'm asking this question intentionally. Do you think that's a normal?
I know you're asking me intentionally. What I'm saying is, if you care about your family, you can prep. You can do things the night before. There are so many tricks into the trade to where it's not like, oh God, I got to go home and I got to cook. I make crock pot meals. I learned how to feed my family correctly, even though I knew I was going to be at work from 6:30 to 6:30.
The reason I'm asking it is because, I mean, you hear all over the internet. You got these women that work in these full-time jobs or even part-time jobs, and the number one complaint is that the men that don't help out around the house, and they're losing their shit over the fact that they're not getting help in all the areas that they need to. And I would say that's the norm for the people's reaction to working and then having to come home and do work at home, right? So I would say that's the norm. So that's why it's like I would say that you were an exceptional woman to be able to do that. I'm not saying that, and I wouldn't say that women that couldn't do that same level didn't care about their family per se, or didn't care enough to want to do that.
But I'm not talking about those types of women, okay? What I'm talking about, and I think I pointed it out, where you have women that say they cannot make a fresh meal, but at the same time, they're jumping in the shower and putting on their makeup and putting on their clothes so they can go out and party. Those are the type of women I'm talking about. Yeah, because all you got to do is throw a pizza in the oven or throw some nuggets or some pizza rolls in the microwave and feed your children. Your children are good, but you out doing whatever you want to do. And for the record, also, when I was working, obviously Billy was also working, And if he came home and they were hungry and he wanted to make something, he would make it as well. So it wasn't like he was sitting here at the table waiting for mom to come home in order to make dinner. If everybody was hungry, he'd be like, all right, let me figure out what I'm gonna make. All right. But again, a lot of times I had already had it prepped or planned because I knew that he got off at 4 and I got off at 6:30. So I could say, hey, the chickens, let's say just for example, the chickens soaking in salt water in the fridge, and I already cut up the string beans. So all you gotta do is XYZ. Or I have something in the crock pot because I did that the night before. So it's possible if you really want to do it.
I'm not talking about impossible. I'm talking about probability. And
all right, y'all. Let me do my station identification so we can get out of here. I want to give a shout out to Meet the World Image Solutions, whose founder is none other than Dr. Rhonda M. Lawson. For all your literary needs and services and whatnot, you want to check out Meet the World Image Solutions. You can go find her at www.mtwimagesolutions.com. Go and inquire about her services. Go check out her merch and whatnot, and you're going to love it. We're going to be having our 10-year anniversary for her Black History Month literary weekend. That's going to occur in February. We'll keep you abreast about that. It's going to be an absolutely amazing experience. For those of you who want to make that trip to New Orleans, please come out to where it got started and whatnot, guys, and celebrate with us and whatnot, guys. Thank you for Maurice for tuning in, coming on stage and whatnot. Thank you very much. He had to go. So also, lastly, Mr. Craves Cookies on IG. Guys, come and find me if you want some of the best cookies of your life. Come and get them and whatnot. Once again, I'm on IG at Mr. Craves Cookies. And also, you can kind of peep in on me on TikTok at the Mr. Craves. That's THE Mr. Craves. That's MrCraves on TikTok as well. And once again, thank you guys for joining us and everything. I know we were talking about a lot of good, interesting things that you probably don't discuss on a daily basis. But honestly, this is life. This is what the real world is and whatnot. And you'll be a fool to turn a blind eye to what's right in front of you. You know what I'm saying? Question everything, as Jessica said. You know what I'm saying? Don't just accept the status quo. Just don't accept things as is, because most things are not as it seems. Okay. And a lot of the things that we've been traditionally taught is wrong fundamentally. And also it's only pretty much by one perspective. Get a broad view perspective on the things that you don't understand, and don't be so fast to quick to dismiss everything without doing your due diligence and doing your own research and stuff like that. Because if you do that, you're going to be missing out on some very, very important things about life, about history, and about yourself. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, please do your due diligence. Anything that Jessica and I discuss on this show, guys, feel free to ask questions. We don't want you to just sit there and blindly agree. If you disagree, please, by all means, let us know what your perspective is so that we can discuss it. And so there's going to be times that Jessica and I will admit, hey, I was wrong about that, or I didn't see that perspective. We don't ever proclaim to be 100% right, ever. So please, if there's something that you can dispute, or if you have facts that you can bring to the table, guys, by all means, chime in and let us know, hey, I know this for a fact. Give us the resources or the sources, and we will go check it out. And you know, we may bring it back on another episode. So please participate. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't just look at the world as black and white. You know what I'm saying? We see all the colors of the spectrum, and we want to see the truth in all of it. You know what I'm saying? We don't know everything, but what we do know we're going to share with you. You know what I'm saying? We only know what we do know. So there's that. Jessica, you got it?
Hold on, I'm trying to get my ducks to be quiet. Shush.
Oh, you try to get your ducks in a row.
They're loud right now. Pretty much just what Dedrick said. You know, we are not here to say our way is the only way and we're right. Engage with us, and we learn too, just like you can learn. You might say something and be like, you know what? Oh, that makes more sense, or vice versa. And again, my favorite thing he said is question everything before making decisions about anything, because people will tell you things that they want you to follow, they want you to believe, and further, just believe in yourself and believe who you are. And I know a lot of times we're afraid to what's the word? We're afraid to I can't think of the word right now. We're afraid to go against the grain, right? You know, so let's say your family's a Christian, but you want to gear more towards spirituality, and you're afraid because you feel that your family will ostracize you. That's okay, because guess what? You're not here to live for your family. You're here to live for you. And at the end of the day, when you go, it's only you. Yeah, they might surround you. They might not. But you have to live your life for yourself. So research everything. Make your own decisions. Don't follow people blindly just because the masses believe in one thing. Believe in what you believe and be yourself. And I land my plane on that. Gosh, these damn ducks.
All right, and once again, we want to thank you guys for coming in, and happy 4th. I want everybody to be safe. We want to see you back watching our episodes, guys. So just be safe out there, y'all. I know up here in Maryland, in Southern Maryland, we've been having a slew of accidents and people. I just don't understand what's going on, but there's been accidents after accidents after accidents, and it's dangerous out here. So guys, be careful. Don't mishandle fireworks and stuff like that. Know where your children are, and please be proactive and school your children before accidents happen. Don't just send them off to be babysat by somebody else. Please educate your children on safety when it comes to these fireworks and stuff like that, guys. You know, we want your guys to make it to the next day, and whatnot, guys. So, so, so if you know, so we're gonna end the show tonight and whatnot. And once again, thank you guys for coming through. So on behalf of the Phenomenal and myself, the Cookie Man, I want to say thank you. We're going to see you guys next Thursday, this time 8:30, with another amazing episode of Soul Flow Conversation. Thank you so much.
These damn ducks get on my